Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new designing video where I'll be walking you guys through on how to design UI UX designs of mobile applications and web applications. So for this particular video, I'll be walking you through on this particular design, and which is designed by a UI UX designer called Anastasia, and I would like to recreate on how to actually this particular design is being made in Figma. And let's get started. Now in our Figma file here, which is just a brand new Figma file right here, you'll be able to find I have already gathered all the assets which will be useful for this particular designing process of this particular UI design. So first of all, with our food booking app we have about to design right now, I would like to make sure that I go to my main page here. I want to create a new frame by clicking on this particular button here which says frame. By clicking on it, you're able to find there will be a list of frames will be listed on our right hand side here, and in this case I'll have to go for iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is right here. Click on this and there you go. Right now you're able to find this is the first step that you should be doing, just to create a simple frame that will be act as a background of your mobile app UI. And that's it for the first step. So now let's go to the design, which is right here. As you can see, the first page that I would like to do for this particular food booking app would be to do the first screen right here. As you can see, in the first screen here, you happen to find there's some text here, and then there's some list of types of food, and then there's some food cards like this, and then there'll be a list of cards as well, and there's some product info as well. At the same time, there's some nav bar at the bottom here. And first of all, I like to start with from the top here, which is this particular hamburger menu and this particular avatar image on our right hand side here. So let's go to our Figma file, and in our Figma file I like to go to the assets, and I like to grab this particular assets that I already gathered here, which is these two assets here. I like to copy this two, and I like to go to the design of this particular screen here. I like to paste these two assets which I've just copied just like this, and of course I like to make sure that both of them are actually having some almost the same size like this. As you can see, these two are having a different size, so I like to make sure that I actually reduce the size of the image like this. And of course, as you can see in our design here, this particular emoji is basically having a rounded background here. So in this case I like to add a background for this particular emoji asset. So in this case I like to go to this particular image here, and of course I like to create another new circle background. So in this case I like to go to this particular frame here, click the frame, and I like to make sure that I create like a small circle like this, and this particular rectangle has to be you should create a rectangle first. For example, in this case it's going to be a square, and this particular square should be having the same width as this particular hamburger menu. In this case I like to give around 44 width, and there you go. And then in order to make this particular square into a circle, I like to give this particular square a maximum corner radius by going here. As you can see, this is 0 here. Just like to give like around maximum corner radius of 100. As you can see, now it's already became a circle like this. And all you have to do, next thing would be just to grab this particular emoji here, and this is to be placing it inside this particular frame. And of course, I need to be reducing the size of this particular emoji here. And there you go. Right now you happen to have a cool looking avatar like this. And of course, let's add some background color for this particular frame. So in this case, I like to click on this particular field, and I like to go to this particular color, choose where you can actually choose the color, and I like to give some bluish gray like this, and there you go. And that's it. This is the best. This is exactly how we wanted to look like. Now next thing would be to actually place them within the mobile frame here. But before that, I need to make sure that actually these two assets to be placed in auto layout first. In this case, I like to select both of this. I need to make sure that I group them. And once you group them, you need to go to this particular right hand side here, where you need to click on this auto layout. And once you click on auto layout, you must make sure that we actually have space between option for this particular spacing mode. And once you have them, you just need to be making sure that we actually place it right in front here. And also, not to forget, let's add some layout grid as well. So in this case, I have to add a layout grid. And this particular layout grid, this is only meant for columns. So once you have columns, you need to make sure that you put this particular number 5 equals to into number 8 here, so that it has more number of lines like this. And of course, let's go to here, and then all you have to do, just need to make sure that we select group here, and then all you have to do, just need to be making sure that we actually place them. Let's make this particular size of this particular group to expand it until it reaches both of this particular line here, and make sure that it actually touches the line on both the hand like this. For example, like here, and this is touching on both the hands like this, both sides of the line here. And there you go. This is how you are able to keep this particular elements within the container of the mobile app that you are going to design. Next thing, let's go to the design here. And the next thing we should be having is this two text here. So this particular text going to be taking its text tool like this. Once I grab the text tool, I have to place it within the container like this. I have to type the content that I've just seen from the design, which says good food and fast delivery, just like this. And of course, now it can see we have only added the text. So next thing would be to actually to give them more styling properties. So in this case, I'd like to increase the size by going on our right hand side here, and of course let's change the font first. In this case, I'd like to change a different font to Urbanist, just like this. And once you have selected Urbanist, I like to increase the size first of this to up around like 40 would do. 40 is just fine here. Next thing would be to actually to give some more thickness to this particular text here. So let's go to black. Let's add black here, and there you go. Right now we already done this particular text. And let's go to the next part, which will be to adding this cards here. As you can see, there's some card here, and which says main, soups, salads, and drinks. So let's add those things. So first of all, I create a small square like this, and then like to place it within the container like this to make it a bit more bigger. And there you go. Right now, I like to make sure that I actually remove this particular grid for just for a while. Like to hide it for a while. Next thing would be to actually like create a simple rectangle that I've just seen, which have some corner radius of 20 like this. And of course, the background color should be white. And there you go. Let's add white. But then as you can see, there's no difference between the background color and this particular. What I do, I like to change the background color to be a bit more darker than the one like this. As you can see, this is just perfectly fine. Let's give more intensity to this particular card here by giving shadow. Let's go to this particular effects properties here, and as you can see, you have already added drop shadow here. Let's click on this effects settings, and I can simply manually set the shadow of this particular card here. First of all, I like to increase the blurriness to around like 25, and once I've added 25, I can actually reduce the opacity to around like 10. And there you go. Right now we already completed the simple card here. Next thing would be, let's grab all these particular icons here, and I like to grab this, and I like to paste it right here first for a while, so that I'll be able to paste them inside them. And I like to make sure that I actually copy this particular item here. I like to place it inside here. And as you can see, I don't just need to be placing them right inside here. The next thing would be to actually to add some text at the bottom here. So I like to select the text tool here. At the same time, I need to create a simple text box right below here. And this case, I like to see what's the one. It says main. So in this case, I like to type main like this. And of course, the size of the font should be reduced to let's say around like 12 should do. And there you go. All you have to do, just need to make sure that it actually aligns to the center by clicking on this. And of course, let's make this particular text to be in the same group as the one in the product card here. As you can see, we must make sure that these two things should be in the same group by selecting group selection. And then of course, let's make these two text and the group that we have just made before to be in the same group by selecting group selection. And of course, let's make this particular text to become a bit more less thicker. So in this case, I like to give around like bold should do. In this case, I like to add font size to be 14. That should be fine like this. And last thing we should be doing is let's make a copy of this particular group that we have just made. Make a copy of this. And once you have made a copy, let's select both of these particular groups that we have just made. Add auto layout like this. And of course, once you have added auto layout, select one of them. And all you have to do, just need to copy and paste. In this case, I like to copy Control C and Control V, and there you go. Right now you're able to just duplicate the same card like this. And the next thing would be to actually to make sure that these cards are actually placed within the container. So let's open our container again, and in our container, as you can see here, this particular card is actually not within the container, so we can actually reduce the gap between each and every single product card here. As you can see, as you can see now, as it is touching the line here. And next thing would be to actually to just replacing all the content with what we have just gathered here. In this case, I like to hide the particular grid here, and I like to replace the content like this. Take the soup icon here, I like to replace it inside here, just like this. And this particular salad icon should be placed inside here, just like this. And this particular drink icon should be placed inside here as well. And there you go. Right now we have already done. And let's replace the text as well. It says soups, salads, and drinks. So let's change those things. And let's reduce the thickness of this to become like semi-bold should do like this. And of course, let's reduce the opacity of this particular color. And this case, I like to give around like 50%. And of course, let's make the same styling properties for the rest of these two particular cards here as well. And there you go. Right now we have already completed the second part here. Now let's go to the following part, which just basically will be having a product card of this particular food here. And let's go to the next part where we should be having this particular text here. And this particular text should be just going to be copying this particular text, paste it right here, and it's going to be replacing the content to become popular now. And I also need to make sure that I reduce the size of this font. And let's reduce it to 24. And there you go. Right now, let's move on to the next part, which is to create those particular product cards. And those product cards are basically will be having a food on top of here, and then there's some text on the bottom here, and then there's a pricing here, and then there's some emoji here. And that's the basic idea of this particular card. So let's go to Figma here, and I'd like to create a simple product cards background here by selecting this particular rectangular shape tool. And let's create a simple rectangular shape like this. And also I like to open the particular grid column which I've just hidden here. And of course, you need to make sure that I actually place it right inside like this. And there you go. All you have to do just need to make sure that we actually fill up the whole space. And we can what you can also do is that we can actually make a copy of this, and I can actually select both of them, change the size according to how much width I would like to be placing like this. And in this case, I like to make sure that I have some space of this particular card will be left out of the container. And this is basically how it looks like in the design as well, just like this, by the way. And first of all, I like to just take one of this, and I like to remove the grid for a while just by hiding the grid. And in this particular the first card here, I like to make sure I like to make the color to become white. And once I have made it white, I also like to add some shadow like this. Click on the drop shadow option here. I like to add blurriness of 25, and also I like to reduce the opacity to around like 10. And that should do. And also I like to add some corner radius for the sides here. In this case, I like to go to this particular corner radius and add about like 25 like this. And as you can see here, right now we have already made this particular card here. And next thing would be to add this particular assets of this particular image of food here. And I like to just like copy this food, and I like to paste it right on top of this particular card like this. And of course, I need to make sure that I reduce the size of this particular food like this. And this particular food is basically placed almost at the top here, like this. And as you can see in the design here, this particular food is basically placed on top of the card here, just like this. And as long as you're actually being placed on top of the card, it should be perfectly fine. And this particular height of this particular card should also be reduced around like this. And that should do like this. And let me just move it a bit to the bottom here. And right now, let's go to the next part, which is to add some text like this. So in this case, it says garlic butter stick with asparagus. So I'd like to add a text box. Clicking on this, make a text box like this, and add the content. Just like this. And once you have typed the content, I like to reduce the size of this particular font. And in this case, I like to change the font size to become around like, as you can see, there's no 18 here. So in this case, I like to add manually 18. And just like this. And I need to make sure that I actually place it right inside here. And next thing would be to make sure that the font thickness should also be reduced around like semi-bold. Also, I like to change the color of this particular text to become a bit less darker. As you can see, I can go a bit to the brighter side of this particular black color. And that's what you'll be having. Next thing would be to add this particular price here. As you can see, this is the price tag here. So in this case, I like to make a copy of this. Go to the bottom here, add $11, just like this. And of course, I like to make it to become a bit more smaller like this. And this particular price must be having a different font type. As you can see, in this case, I like to add black like this. And of course, I like to change the color here. In this case, it's going to be a pure black color. I also like to increase the size here. As you can see, it's 18 here. I like to go and add about like 24. And that's perfectly fine here. And next thing would be need to be having this particular chili emoji here. So in this case, I'm going to go to assets, and there's a chili emoji has been placed here. Like to copy this, go back to design here, like to paste it right here. And let's make this two element, which is the text box here, and this particular image of this particular chili emoji here to become in the same group like this. And let's also add auto layout as well. And also not to forget, we must make sure that this particular spacing mode should be spaced between. And let's increase the width of this particular group. And of course, just like this, by the way. And there you go. Right now, I've already done all of this. And also not to forget, we must make sure all of this are actually placed in one group, by the way. I like to select all of this, and I like to make sure that I make them into a one group. And by doing that, you're able to make everything to be aligned to the center like this. And there you go. Right now, it's actually also, as you can see, it's not aligned to the center. Make it like this, make it aligned to center, and even this particular text here as well. And there you go. Now let's go and add another duplicate of this by doing copy and paste, and then we can actually make a duplicate of this, and we can just select both of them. And we can actually, for the second card here, I like to replace the image. For this case, I like to replace it with this particular food image here. And let's go to the page one. And I like to replace this particular image here like this. And I like to remove the old one like this. And I like to place it place this particular food to be center like this. And there you go. And let's change the name as well. In this case, let's go to the design. As you can see, it says Mediterranean chicken quinoa. So in this case, I like to change the content to Mediterranean chicken quinoa. And just like this. And once we have already done this particular two content here, we can just make them into an auto layout of group. And of course, I need to make sure that we actually add this particular auto layout here, and you can see we are able to control the width and the gap between each and every single card like this. The last part for the first page here is to add this particular nav bar at the bottom here. This particular nav bar will be having all these 4 icons here, and this all 4 icons can be found in this particular icons here. As you can see, I already gathered this particular 4 icons here. So I like to copy all these particular icons, this particular design page here. So I like to create another new shape here, which has to be a simple page. And all I do, I like to create a simple frame like this, and let's create a simple frame. I like to fill up the holes with like this, and also like to place it at the bottom here. And of course, I like to make the color to become black. So in this case, I like to add fill and add black color. And also like to add this particular corner radius to become to the max, because it has to be rounded corners just like this. And this particular nav bar should be placed out of this particular frame like this. So in this case, it should be placed like this. And what I also like to do is that I like to change the corner radius of the frame, of the main frame here, which only applies to the bottom here. As you can see here, once we zoom here, you can see this particular corner radius should be following this particular nav bar's corner radius as well. So in this case, I like to change this particular corner radius to become around like 50 should do. And there you go. Right now, as you can see, there's no border, there's no corner here, and we should also do it at this particular side as well. So in this case, I like to go to the right hand side. I also like to change the particular corner radius to around like 50 like this, and there you go. Right now, if you already added this particular corner radius, now it looks like the one in the design here. Now let's see, I like to paste the icons which I've just copied, and I like to paste it in the center here. And of course, I like to make sure to add auto layout like this. As you can see, auto layout already been added. All you have to do, you can actually increase the gap between them by increasing this particular spacing. And of course, you can also make sure to paste them in the center like this. And you can also give more spacing between them around like this. It should also be perfectly fine. And also need to make sure we have to align at the center, always in the center like this. And next thing would be to follow the opacity of the icons here. As you can see in our design, only the first icon has some opacity of full, and the rest is actually looks less bright. So in this case, reduce opacity to around like 65% we should do. As you can see, when I change the opacity here to 65%, it becomes dimmer. And also let's change it for this one as well to 65, and there you go. And of course, for the last icon here, just to make sure, change the 100% to 65, and this is how you are able to be done. Make this particular icons to look like. Let's not to forget, let's add some corner radius at the top here as well. As you can see, the corner radius at the top is not actually applied. So in this case, I like to add 50 both the sides of the top here like this. So 50 should be here and should be here as well. And there you go. Now we have already done the first page here, and let's go to the next page. In the second screen right here, as you can see, there's a big plate of food here, and then there's some context for this particular food here, and there's some buttons at the bottom here and top here as well. And let's design the second screen right here. Let's go back to our UI design, and what I would like to do is that I like to make a copy of the first screen like this. And the second screen right here won't be having any of this, so I like to remove all of this. And right now it's just an empty blank screen like this. And let's start off by adding the background here. As you can see, there's two background here. First is the dark background, and then there's a white background here. So let's add those things first. So I like to give the dark background first. In this case, I like to go to the fill here. I like to get like a dark background like this. First step here. Second would be to add another frame, which will be this white color background here. So in this case, I like to select frame tool here, and I have to be making a simple rectangular shape like this. And there you go. And then I'll be making sure that I actually have some fill for this. This particular fill will be having white. And there you go. Right now, the next thing would be to give this particular white color background some border here. As you can see, you can just like give this around like 50 corner radius like this. And there you go. Next thing would be to actually to place this particular food on top of this particular screen. So what I like to do, I'll just take a copy of the first food here. I like to paste it right inside here. And of course, I like to make the food to be a bit more bigger like this. And of course, I like to make it align to the center. And of course, align in the middle as well, like this. And of course, I like to make the food become a bit more bigger, and I like to place it right here. And there you go. Right now, I need to make sure that I actually place the center. And next thing would be to add some context to this for this particular food. And those contexts can be basically the name of the food. Then there's some info here, and then there's some description like this. So first of all, I like to add this food name like this. I will just like take this particular text which I've just made, copy, and I like to paste it right inside here. And I like to paste it. And once I paste it here, I like to make sure that I change this particular text content to chicken curry with rice, just like this. And of course, I need to make sure that I actually paste it to the center. like this, and of course I need to reduce the size of this particular text to become like 28, just like this, and of course I need to make sure it's aligned to the center. And also make sure that this particular font text is also aligned to the center like this, and also need to make sure that this particular font box is actually to the center like this. And also let's bring this particular put title to the bottom here. The next thing would be to add this info here, where there will be a clock here, then there's a fire icon here, and then there's a star here for the ratings. And let's add those things. And I happen to have all those 3 images have already been gathered like this. So let me take all of this, go to the page 1 here, and of course I need to make sure that I actually paste it right here, just like this. And of course I like to make sure that I actually place them properly. First of all, I like to make sure to select this particular clock icon here, and then I'll be adding some text for this. So this particular text would be to add time required to cook, so in this case 30 minutes. As you can see, this particular text should be a bit more smaller like this, and of course let's reduce the size around like 20 should do. And there you go. Now let's reduce the size just like this, and let's reduce the size of this particular image of this particular clock as well, and let's place it right beside here like this. And there you go. Right now this is the first step here. Let's make this 2 into one group first. So let's make this into a group. And I'd like to make this, the second thing would be to this particular fire here. This particular thing would be having its own content as well. In this case, I'd like to make a copy of the first one. I'd like to put it here, and I'd like to change the content, the number of calories like this. In this case, I'd like to say 275 calories, just like this. And of course, I need to make sure that I actually expand this particular text like this. And there you go. And next thing would be to actually reduce the size here, and also this size here as well. Just like to make sure to reduce the size of this particular image as well. And there you go. Right now let's make this to be a bit more closer to each other. And there you go. The next thing would be to actually, I like to select both of this, and once I select both of them, I like to make sure that I actually make them into one group selection, same like this. And of course this particular star should also be having the same size here. As you can see, this is 33, this is 33, as should be 33 by the way, and this star should be 33 as well, just like this. And let's make sure that the size is also the same like this. And let's make a copy of text here. Let's make a copy of this, and I will paste it right here. And in this case, this is meant for the rating, just like this, 4.9, just like this. And there you go. Right now we happen to have 3 set of info like this. So in this case, I like to select both of this, make them into one group. And of course, I can select all these 3 groups here, make them into auto layout. And once we have already made them auto layout, you can actually make them align to horizontally like this. And of course, you can reduce the gap in between them, and by actually changing this particular gap in between them like this. And there you go. Right now we also can make sure that to align all of them to the center. And also let's give it this particular screen to be having that layout grid like this, to make sure that we're actually following the layout grid that we have already been made. And let's place them to the center like this. Make sure that we actually place them within the container. And there you go. You must make sure you place it like this, including this. Now as you can see here, right now we already made them to be aligned perfectly to the container like this. And on our right hand side, we can also check that we have also been perfectly aligned to the center like this. And we can actually close this particular layout grid. And next thing would be to add some description of this particular food. As you can see, there's some description like this. So in this case, I like to add this particular text tool here. I like to make a text box right below this particular info like this. And I like to place that particular text of the particular food here. And there you go. Right now I just pasted the text that have been copied. And next thing will be to actually to change the styling of this text here. So in this case, I like to reduce the thickness of this particular text. Instead of using black, I like to use medium. And I like to change the color of this particular text as well. In this case, I like to reduce it to around like gray like this. And this should do. And next up would be to add these 2 buttons at the bottom here, which will be it's meant for the product. In this case, I like to take this particular shape tool here. I like to place 2 rectangles like this. Just like simple rectangle like this, and make another rectangle like this here as well, to make sure that we actually follow the container. So in this case, I like to open the layout grid as well for this, in this case visible like this, and also I like to make sure that I actually follow the containers with. As you can see, we can just make it like this, and this should be like this, placed like this as well. And there you go. Right now they have 2 buttons like this. So as you can see, this particular button is bigger than this particular. So we can actually make the second button here to become a bit more bigger than the first one like this. In this case, I can make it like this. And this button will be having wider width like this. And there you go. And let's make them to be having lesser gap in between them like this. And this you can actually just make them simply like, instead of just making like this, you can just make them both of them to become in a single group like this. Make them into a group auto layout. And once you added auto layout, now you're able to control their width gap between them as well. I like to give column radius of 15 like this, and also for this as well, for both of them, 15 corner radius like this. And next up would be to add, I like to add some content for this particular button. So as you can see, it says add to cart, and then there's some price here. So I like to add that thing first. So in this case, I like to add text tool. So I like to take the text tool right here, and I like to place it right inside here. Next thing would be to actually, I like to add that add to cart word like this. And there you go. Right now, I like to make sure that it need to be placed in the center, and of course, I need to be changing the size of 12. In this case, I like to change it to 16, and just like this. And of course, I need to increase the thickness of this. In this case, I like to add around like bold. And once I added bold, I can also add another text. In this case, I like to add the price. Just by putting it here. In this case, I like to add around like $18, just like this. And of course, I need to make sure that this aligned to my right hand side, and I like to increase the thickness as well, and of course, increase the size as well. So around like 24 should do. And there you go. Right now we have already made this particular design for this particular text here, for this particular button here like this. And next up, let's change the color. As you can see, the color is basically the black. The button is having a black color, and the text are actually white. So let's change it first. So in this case, I have to change the fill to white for both of them. Change it to white, and change the button color to become darker like this. In this case, I have to add this particular dark black color. And there you go. Now let's, in this case, I have to make sure that I actually place them a bit to the center, not towards the end, but a bit to the center like this. And there you go. Now next up, it will be to add this particular button here, which says plus and -2. In this case, I'll add, first of all, I have to add a number 2 like this in the center. And of course, I need to make sure that I change the thickness to semi-bold like this. And of course, I need to make sure that I actually align to the center. You can see we already aligned this to the center. Next thing would be to add some plus and minus icon here. In this case, I have to take another text box here, and I have to add plus, take another text box here. In this case, I have to add minus. In this case, I can select all this tree of this particular item here. Select all 3 of them. I can actually make them into one group, and that particular group can be added into auto layout so that we are able to align to the center like this. And there you go. You can also make them to align to the center to this particular button here. First of all, I need to make sure that this particular button should be, let's make this particular button into a frame first, and that particular button you can actually add it into auto layout. And we can actually take this particular button here, take this, and we just paste it right inside here, and then it just becomes like this. We are able to have this particular consistent gap in between the entire thing here. And there you go. Right now we open to have this particular button here as well. Next thing would be to add this button here to become an auto layout as well. In this case, I like to make them into a group selection like this. And once I added them, to make sure this two selected group selection. And of course, once I made it here, to make sure this for this particular button inside here, to make this into a frame and add auto layout. And inside here, we can just paste that particular content like this. And there you go. Right now, as you can see, we don't have much gap in between them, so we can actually add more gap. As you can see, there's only 10 that we are given. Let's add it to 15 consistent height. So what we can do, we can actually reduce this particular like 10, and that should do. And there you go. Right now, as you can see, we can actually make them into one group like this, and we can also make both of these buttons to become an auto layout as well. As you can see, we can make a selection of this, and we can actually make them to be aligned to the center like this. And there you go. Right now we already finished this particular gap here, and there you go. Right now we already finished the bottom button here. Let's go to the top here. As you can see, the top here is just going to be having 2 more buttons, and these 2 buttons we can just easily access it from our assets as well. As you can see, in our assets we happen to have this particular heart icon here. I like to get this particular icon, and I like to paste it right inside here. Okay, as you can see, this particular icon will be surrounded by a white color circle. So this can actually take a ellipse tool here, make a circle like this, and I have to make this particular field to become white. And there you go. Take this particular icon. This is going to be pasting it inside here. Just going to be taking this icon here. Then we'll paste it inside here. Okay, just like this. I need to make sure this two to be in the same group like this, group selection. And there you go. Right now you're able to paste it like this. The next thing would be to add another button here on our left hand side. So in this case, I make a copy of this particular button. See like this, and this particular button will be having a different icon inside here. In this case, it's going to be this particular first icon here, which is happen to be a white icon like this. So I have to copy this and I can paste it here instead of this particular icon here. Take this and I have to paste it right here. But as you can see, this particular icon is not having a dark background here, so I must reduce the brightness of this particular icon here, of this particular shape here. So in this case, I can add this particular shape inside here, just like this. And there you go. Right now we already finished our second screen here, but as you can see, we can add more touch-ups here. As you can see, we can put it a bit to the top here. We can pull this particular shape a bit to the top here, and we can also bring this particular text to the bottom top here. This particular stuff to a bit more top here, and of course this particular description a bit more to the top here. And there you go. Right now we happen to have a nice, good looking second screen right here. Now let's head back to the third screen. Next, the third page would look like this, by the way. And all you have to do for the third page is to have the map as the background here. And on top of the map, we'll be adding some route that have been passed by this particular vehicle, where there's a starting point and then there's an ending point like this. And besides that, as you can see, there's some elements have been used in the bottom part of the screen here, which is basically the arrival time, delivery address, and of course some call to action button to call this particular driver or your rider. And then that's the basic idea of a third screen would be. And let's go back to our design here. All you do is need to have another screen right after this. Basically, I'm just going to be making a copy of this like this, and of course I'll be removing the unwanted layers, for example like this, and the rest of this as well. And of course I like to keep these two buttons here. As you can see, the buttons are here almost the same, reused. It's just we're going to be making sure to use this particular black color icon here. So in this case, I'll go back to the icon here, and I like to take another icon here with black color icon here, just this particular icon here. So let's take this particular icon and go back to the page one right here. I like to replace this particular icon with this particular icon just like this, and I'll just like paste it on top of it, and there you go. Right now you're able to see that is that particular icon here. Next thing would be to add this particular icon right here on our right hand side here, where we'll be making use of the second icon which we have found here. I like to copy this particular icon, copy this, and go back to our page one here. I like to replace this particular heart icon here with the I like to place that particular target icon like this, and of course remove the icon that I already used, this particular heart icon here. Just remove it, and there you go. Right now you happen to have these two icons right here. And next thing would be to have this particular background right here. This particular background, I like to take this particular icon and I like to paste it on top of as a background for this particular frame here. As you can see, I just paste it right here, and then you'll be having your background color to be having this. Expand this particular background right here to fill up the whole space like this, and there you go. Of course, I need to be making sure to send this particular background to the back right here. Send it to the back, and of course, I like to make this particular color to be having a bit more brighter color. And in this case, I like to go to that particular fill here. I like to make sure to use a little bit more brighter color like this. And of course, you can see according to our design here, I'll be having some shadow for this particular icon, this particular second icon right here. And of course, I like to make sure to have some shadow like this right below here. Add effects, and right below here, I like to make sure to use shadow right here. In this case, I like to add blur equals to 25% and reduce opacity around like 10 should do. And there you go. Right now, it's just perfectly fine. Next thing is that I like to draw the route that has been passed by a particular rider like this here. As you can see, there's a route has been outlined like this. So I like to go back and take the pen tool right here, and I like to draw a particular line, for example, like this. Just like this. I like to make a simple set of lines just to outline the path that has been taken by that particular rider on route to travel your food, for example, like this. And just like I'm just gonna be making sure to just draw some basics line like this, and then of course I'll be like to end it right here, and there you go. Right, once you have ended it here, I like to go and click on done. And as you can see right now, as you can see, this particular line is not exactly like how we wanted it to look like. So what I can like to do is that I like to click on this particular edit button here, and I can change this particular stroke right here to become the size of the thickness to become around like 5 like this. And of course I like to change this particular line here. As you can see, I can make this particular line to become rounded, and of course the ending can also be rounded as well, like just like this. And of course, you can see the corners are so sharp right here. Next thing would be to like to click on done first. As you can see here, we can actually add some corner radius around like 5 pixels like this. When you click save, you're able to find your route has been having some bent line like this, and this looks far more better. And next thing is I like to create this particular element right here, and this element almost looks like this particular button right here. So I like to reuse the same button which I have already did before. I like to copy this particular button right here. I like to paste it right here as the starting point like this. And as you can see, this is not the one that we're supposed to be using. I mean, what I meant was like the icon right here. But as you can see, we can actually change the particular icon shape right here. As you can see, this particular rectangle is what consists this particular image 17 right here is what makes this particular heart shape here. We can actually delete that particular image like this, and we can actually give some corner radius to this particular rectangle. As you can see, I can give around like 100, and when I give 100, it becomes a circle, and there you go. Next thing we'll do is actually to give some shadow right here. As you can see, click on effects and we can actually click on the icon right here, and we can also like add blurriness of 25 pixels like this, and of course reduce opacity around like 10 should do. And there you go. Right now we have already done the starting point like this. As you can see, there's also something that we should be also need to consider. As you can see, there's some color effect has been utilized around this particular element right here. So I'd like to create a simple ellipse tool like this, so that we're able to make some color, that gradient color effect below around this particular element right here. So I'd like to make this particular thing to become a circle right here. Like in this case, instead of solid, I'd like to choose a linear, and this particular linear will be having, I'd like to make the most bright color to become orange like this, and then the most bottom color to become red just like this. And there you go. Right now I like to reduce opacity for both of them. So in this case I like to make sure to make them to go to the top here right here, and make this thing to go to the bottom right here. Next thing we'll do, I'd like to reduce opacity to, this is 100%, I like to make it around like 50% should do. And as you can see, I like to make this particular background to go to the back of the particular button, so the button can come to the top here. So in this case I like to select this particular group here and make this group to become to the top right here. And there you go. Right now we've already completed the starting point, and then the ending point will be just be needing a circle, and there's a motorbike icon right here. In this case I like to just make a copy of the same button here. I like to copy this, go to the end point here, and just paste it like here. And in this case I like to make the size to become a bit more bigger. And instead of this particular red circle right here, I like to replace it with this particular motorbike icon right here. And this particular scooter icon can just be pasted inside here. And as you can see, once you paste it here, we can actually make this particular circle to become a bit more bigger, so that it actually fits this particular motorbike icon like this. And of course let's make it a bit more bigger. And there you go. Right now we have already made this particular circle to become a bit more bigger to fill this particular motorbike here. But as you can see, I like to make this particular shape of this particular vector here to become a bit more bigger. So like in this case, I add like around like 6 should do, just like this. And there you go. Right now if you already completed a simple outline of path that has been taken by your driver to take from point A to point B. The next thing is to do this particular bottom part here. Part will be having two elements, which is this particular white color card here, and then there's a call to action. So in this, first of all, I'll make this particular white color card here. So I have to create a simple white color background. In this case, let's select a rectangle. Yeah, create a rectangle like this. And this particular rectangle will be having white color as a fill, and make it to the center. And also not to forget, let's add some corner radius around like 25 should do. And also add some effects. In this case, I like to add effects of shadow, and that shadow will be having a blurriness of 25 pixels. The opacity should be around like 10 should do. And there you go. Right now, next thing would be to create this particular icon, and then there's some information around the icon here. So this particular icon has already been used here. As you can see, we can just make a use of this particular icon that we already used earlier. Yeah, so in this case, I'll copy this particular group right here together with that icon like this, so that I'll be able to select them as a group. Copy this, and I like to paste it right inside here. And of course I need to be pasting it right here. And this, of course just need to be replacing the icons with this particular icon. In this case I like to select the first icon right here, select the first one, and just replace it with this particular icon right here. And then we can just remove the old icon that we have already used like this. And next thing would we do, actually let's add some information at the right hand side like this. As you can see, I can just add like a text box right here, and this text box is going to be saying 10 to 15 minutes, just like this. And of course, just like this. Of course, I'll change the font type. In this case, I like to use from regular, I like to choose bold like this. And so after that, and of course, right below this particular time that we have just made like this, I'll be saying this is basically the delivery time. And of course, I'll be having the color to become a bit more lighter like this. And of course, the size should also be reduced around like 9 should do. And of course, I like to change the font thickness to become around like medium like this. And there you go. Next thing is like to make all of this to become into one group. I select both of them to become into, so that they'll be placed inside the same group like this. So select group selection, and of course I like to make these two things to become a group like this. And of course I like to add auto layout for this as well. And this auto layout I like to make sure to have them to center like this. And of course I'll be making a copy of this as well. I'll be pasting it right below here. And what I'll be doing in the second group here, I like to replace icon with this particular icon right here. And just like to go and just replace this clock icon with this particular icon right here. Just delete the old icon like this. And of course just change the content from here. As you can see, it says 10 to 15 minutes. Just change it to a destination. In this case I like to say 70 Washington Square, just like this. And in this case, instead of delivery time right here, I like to change it to delivery address. and that's just like this. And this is how the bottom should look like. And for that, you select all of them and then make them into one group like this, and that's it. The next thing would be to add this particular call to action button right here, where you will be having an avatar of a person, then there's a name of the person, and then there's a call icon right here. And let's do that. Next thing would be to let's create a simple rectangle. Let's select a simple rectangle like this, and just like to create a rectangle right below here. And this rectangle should be filling the box, this particular white card right here. And this particular gray card will be having a darker gray like this, around like here. And of course, I like to add the border radius to become around like max. So that in this case, I will give around like 100. And of course, I like to increase the darkness to a bit more to dark like this. The next thing would be like to make this card to become a bit more to the top right here. As you can see, I like to make this particular card to be having a straight line like this. So in this case, I like to and bring them to a bit to the top right here. And of course, at the bottom here, I like to make them to so that they are able to fill this particular bottom like this. And of course, I like to make this rectangle card to a bit more taller like this. And there you go. Next thing would be to add this particular avatar of the person like this. So in this case, I go to assets here. Let us select this particular avatar image like this, and I like to paste it right inside here, just like inside here. And next thing would be to add this particular call icon here. So call emoji, as you can see, call icon right here. So I like select this, go to page 1, I like to paste it right here. As you can see, this particular icon, call icon, should be placed inside a circle. So in this case, I like to create a simple circle by selecting this ellipse tool right here. I like to create a simple circle that actually having the same height as this particular avatar, just like this. I like to paste it right at the right hand side like this. And I like to take this particular call icon here, I like to paste it inside here. And of course, let's make them into one group, and so that this particular image call icon should be placed at the front like this. Just need to be placing it inside right here. And let's reduce this particular size of this particular call icon right here, just like to paste it like this. And of course, the background should be having a bit more lighter. Instead of this gray color, I like to make it white, and I like to reduce the opacity to around like 25%, just like this. And next thing would be to actually like to select this particular image of this particular call icon, like reduce it to a bit to the smaller size like this, and make them to the center. And next thing would be to add some context at the center right here. And in this case, it's going to be just the name of the person. So I'd copy the text right here, like to paste it right inside here. And this time it's going to be having a different color here. Instead of black color here, I like to make it white. So in this case, I add white right here, and then as you can see, there is a name of this particular person. So in this case, yeah, just like change this particular text to become a person's name. So in this case, it's going to be saying Jordan Keith, something like this, and of course that's the name. And next thing would be to add what actually the person does. So in this case, I like to say he's a courier, just like this. And of course, I like to make this particular text become a bit more smaller than it's supposed to look like. So in this case, I'll change the thickness first. In this case, I'll change to medium, and of course the size, I'll reduce it to around like 10 like this. And let's to make sure these two texts should be aligned to the center like this, just like this. You need to make sure these two particular buttons are actually aligned to the center like this. As you can see right now, as you can see, we can actually make this particular, and there you go. Right now we have already completed the simple design, the third page right here, and there you go. Right now we have already completed the entire project as well. Yeah, I think that's it for this particular part of the video. Thanks for watching the entire part of the video where I have gone through every single step on showing you on how to create exactly something like this particular design right here. And yeah, I think I really would like to appreciate you guys to watch the video till the end. And yeah, that's what I'm really happy for. And thanks for watching again. Let's meet up on the next one where I'll be walking you guys through on a different design of UI UX. And let's catch up on the next one. Thanks.